we're going to go to the next piece of news. CM Punk yet again is making the news, and this time reports are coming out that Punk is all but guaranteed to be returning to AEW probably as early as June, because I believe AEW's booked Chicago. With All In Wembley show coming up, they need all their star power they can get, and Punk is still their biggest star despite not being on TV since September. Now, FTR have been publicly leaking information and posting messages from Punk saying Punk wants to return. Punk is now framing it that he's willing to work with the Young Bucks and Omega and Hangman and Jon Moxley when he buried the majority of them publicly on AEW broadcasts. Now, there is a Deadspin article that lays all the blame on Punk without bringing up that Hangman went off scripts with Punk first. I think that does need to be also said. But this whole CM Punk thing and what this article suggests is CM Punk gaslighting his way back into AEW.
Now, gaslighting, what exactly does gaslighting mean?
Gaslighting means gaslighting, manipulate using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning.
Well, I think I had a phrase I used like a week or two ago on this show. A great heel is always a victim. Always. And I read the article you sent me and about FTR, they're like rallying or lobbying for CM Punk with Tony Khan. But yet, Punk has never said, I'm sorry. He's never apologized to really anybody. I mean, that's up to him. He can do that or not. But that's only half the story. Yeah, they need CM Punk, especially with Wembley and Chicago shows coming up and all this. They need him because he would help them. Because I think when people CM Punk fans, when they talk about him as the good guy in this, not the bad guy, the good guy. And that's the way he talks about it. But what hasn't been determined, he said he would work with Paige, said he would work with the Bucks, he would work with Omega. But wait a minute, has anybody asked them, would they mind working with Punk? And this is where Tony Khan is going to have to step it up. He's going to have to finally, and I've said this before, I don't want to sound like a repeating horn here, but Tony Khan needs to take charge of this. He needs to finally tell these guys, you're either going to work with them, if he's going to bring him back, you're either going to work with him or I'm going to have to do something with you, which may make the talent probably madder than they already are and probably madder at Punk.
So do you think Tony Khan needs to force the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all these guys to just say, get over your feelings, just wrestle Punk, it's good for business?
Yeah, that's what. Are they in this business to make money or to soothe the wrestler's feelings? Okay, I'm going to tell everybody listening, you're a billionaire. He's a billionaire. Tony Khan's a billionaire.
Well, his dad is, yeah.
Yeah, his dad is. And probably Tony he's not far from there either, I wouldn't expect. But he has access to money. So say he takes this money as a loan from his dad or whatever, but he's still got to pay it back. So is he in this business to make money? Or is he in business to coddle wrestlers' feelings? You can't do both. And he needs to actually separate himself from the talent. And he can still be friends with them. But you don't have to go out and maybe drink with them or whatever he does with them. Because I think he got into business. And I met him a long time ago, way before I even knew that he was going to start a new company. And he knew all about me. He knew more about me than I sometimes think anybody did. But he is, because he's big on research. He's a smart guy. He really is. And that's why these guys, they can get him, what I think, they can get him behind the scenes and literally talk him into anything. Now, those guys can, a regular run-of-the-mill, like mid-card wrestler, won't be able to do that. But he likes them and he's willing to listen to them, which is fine. But when he needs Punk and the feelings are hurt, That's when he needs to be a boss and sit them all down and say, hey, y'all going to have to come together. Mm-hmm. Or otherwise, and I would tell Punk, you're going to have to fix this. And I'd give him a week to fix it. If he didn't fix it, then I'd move on.
Well, it seems that, the Wrestling Observer reported a few days ago, there is a meeting scheduled soon in AEW with Chris Jericho, CM Punk, Tony Khan, FTR, and perhaps one other non-wrestler personality. So, at least Punk is going to be apparently sitting down with Jericho, who I know Jericho has been very public is a dislike of Punk recently.
Well, I think Jericho would share the same feelings as I do. I think it's a good thing that Jericho's in that meeting, because Jericho's been around long enough to know that business comes before everything. And I think he'll tell Punk. But I think he'll use his seniority to tell Punk, who is, I guess Jericho's been in the business longer, but Punk has been in the business long enough to know this without being told. But he hasn't been told, if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen. See, I thought before all this that Punk would do a lawsuit, which is still not out of the realm of possibility. But I think if Jericho gets him behind the scenes and says, come on, Phil, blah, 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 we're going to Chicago, we're going to Wembley, we need you. And hey, Jericho may work to his vanity by putting him over and tell him to get along with these guys. I think that's the best thing to do, is say, hey, let's all get along. Let's all hug and make up, which is because I think business comes before anything else. That's what I think.
Shoot rivalries such as this, or, some famous ones, Shawn and Brett, for example, Shane Douglas and Ric Flair, in fact, that was another example off the top of my head. Do they make a feud better if there's genuine animosity between the two wrestlers, or does it not in the long term?
I don't think it makes it better. But I do think that if they can instill in the fans' minds that there's legitimate heat between these two, it can't hurt it. It can only add to it. But as far as the two competitors, I think they want to have a good match, but yet at the same time, and you can have a good match with somebody you don't like. I've done it a lot of times. I mean, not to where the point where I wanted to fight him or anything. I could just maybe not really care for one guy, or he may not care for me. But still, I would go out there and have the best match I could with him.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Dutch, carry on.
And I would see, if you have a match with a guy you don't like, and the first hard shot, you let it go. And the second one, you say, whoa. Then you start pounding back, and pretty soon you're beating the crap out of each other for no reason. I mean, you're not doing it for the fans. You're actually doing it because it becomes personal. And then if that goes on long enough, it can turn into a full-fledged fight. And I've seen that happen too. Not a lot, but it has happened. So personal feuds, if the fans know it, yes, it does help the angle. But I don't know if it draws more money.
I wanted to bring this up. So FTR, I mentioned beforehand. Obviously, they're both big fans of CM Punk and Dax Harwood.
What does FTR stand for? Some revival or something?
Fuck the revival now.
What is it?
Fuck the revival. It used to be the revival, and now FTR stands for fuck the revival. Or it used to be that.
What's that mean?
I don't know. They don't like their old tag team name from WWE, I suppose. But I wanted to bring this up because Dax Harwood has a podcast, and generally he gets into the wrestling news websites to promote the podcast because he's got some direct line to Punk, and he gets a text message and some message to Punk, and then he's good advertising for the podcast. And breaking news, 1 hour ago, as we record this, Dax Harwood has said he's cancelling his podcast because of basically he can't take the amount of criticism that he's getting from anti-punk fans and anti-everyone else fans. Crikey, we get criticised every single week, and we carry on, but yeah, what do you think of that?
Okay, who is this?
One of FTR.
Oh, canceling his podcast.
Dax. Yeah.
And Dax has a mustache.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't comment on your mustache, James.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic, isn't it? I mean,
that looks very Vince McMahon-ish. I might add.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's saying he's canceling his podcast. I think I've read some of his stuff. I don't care, don't mind, but I think he kind of believes his own publicity that they are the greatest tag team in wrestling history. Didn't they say that?
Probably.
I mean, well, but again, when you get into the wrestling business, if you don't think you're the best or one of the best, you don't have any business being in it anyway. And I've seen their matches. They're good. They're a good tag team. I don't think they're the best tag team ever. And if you can't stay, the old saying, and you've heard it too, it's an old saying. I bet you heard your grandmother say this: if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And if he can't take this, then don't do the podcast. Mm-hmm. And if people don't like what I say, don't listen to me. I'm not like twisting your arm saying you got to listen. If you don't like it, yeah, tell me. I don't care.